Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gordon. We are back with another video. Today, we're talking about Bitcoin getting to $1 million per token. How will it happen? When will it happen? That's what we're going to dive straight into. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon, and don't forget to grab your completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin waiting for you now in the description below this video. Go ahead and grab it, and let's talk about Bitcoin. Okay, so at the time of recording this video, we are currently sitting at $118,700 for the price of Bitcoin in August of 2025. Of course, you can see we've been in a very strong uptrend since April of this year. We are seeing a pretty strong pattern as we move into Q3 and Q4 for the remainder of 2025. But the big question is, if we zoom out on the chart here, when could we be looking at Bitcoin getting to that lucrative price of $1 million per token? And if we zoom out on the chart here, it seems very, very far away as to when that might actually happen. I'm zooming all the way out here. We need to see the price of Bitcoin going exponential from where we're at today to hit this $1 million target on the chart over the coming years. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely, in my opinion. And I think we're more likely to hit $1 million for Bitcoin than Bitcoin going to zero, with all of the regulatory clarity, adoption, on-chain technicals, and institutional money flowing into Bitcoin and the crypto space. So how do we get there? Well, there's a few different models that I like to use and think about when looking and mapping the potential for Bitcoin to move towards $1 million per token. Let's bring it back to the daily chart here for a moment. And the next thing I want to look at is the Bitcoin power law model. We're looking at this over here on bitbo.io. And what this is mapping is Bitcoin's price action moving towards resistance and support with a linear regression fit being the green line in the middle of the chart over the course of its entire history. And again, what you'll notice is, very interestingly, Bitcoin follows this power law model, which is a model and phenomenon that is seen in nature and with the growth of cities, with relative size of mammals, etc. You can look a bit deeper into the power law specifically if you are interested. But essentially, the pattern that you notice here is that Bitcoin has periods of breakouts where it goes towards resistance on the purple line and moves back towards the linear regression fit before typically dropping below that linear regression fit, moving towards support at the bottom of these bear markets before going back to the linear regression, pushing to new all-time highs, and then oscillating back and forth. And again, what we saw is, in the immediate aftermath of Bitcoin's launch, running up to this area, pulling back down, again in the aftermath of the 2012 halving, moving up to hit resistance and pulling back down here again before coming to the 2016 halving, blow off top, run up again towards the end of 2017, cool off, moving back to the linear regression fit, blow off top again, 2021. We didn't quite reach all the way up to resistance here, but we did come back down to hit support, and now we're right at that linear regression fit if we look at where price action is in August of 2025. Again, I'm excited to see where Bitcoin's going to move to as we go towards Q4 of this year. But if we project out with this power law that Bitcoin has followed since inception, the power law has us getting to $1 million price target for Bitcoin per token by the year 2030. I think it's July of 2032 is when it's precisely going to hit that $1 million valuation. Again, that is based on the linear regression fit and does not account for the fact that in the 2028-2029 cycle, or when we have that 2028 halving and Bitcoin makes higher moves in 2029, 2030, you could see a blow off top up here with Bitcoin's price moving up to that resistance level on the power law by 2028, 2029, 2030. And that would have us getting to that $1 million price per Bitcoin if we run up to hit that resistance level somewhere in the immediate aftermath of that 2028 halving event. Again, this is pure speculation, guys, but when you look at the power law and map it out and think about how historical price action has led us towards those levels, it's not unfeasible to think that we might be going to that level by 2029, 2030. And in my opinion, latest or worst case scenario by 2032, 2033. So that is one model and one way to think about how we map Bitcoin and its price action towards $1 million. That would still be essentially a 9x from today's prices, where we're at 118,000, and over a 6 or 5 year period. Not a bad return on investment. The next model I want to look at, or the next thing I want you to remember and keep in mind, is the Bitcoin supply and block subsidy over time, because the stock to flow model for Bitcoin accounts for the supply shock event that happens with these halving events every 4 years. Remember, we just had a halving here in 2024 where the block subsidy got cut in half once again, and that will happen in 2028, again in 2032. It's roughly every 4 years. And you're going to see that block reward diminish over time, which historically has led Bitcoin price to shoot to the upside because of that supply shock happening. And what you're seeing on the chart here with the Bitcoin stock to flow model is a visual representation of how that has historically happened over time. Again, looking at the lines on the charts here, we can see that we've got Bitcoin stock to flow with the most recent halving event occurring in 2024 right here, where this yellow line ticks to the upside. And the same thing happened again if we jump back here in 2020 and in 2016 and in 2012 respectively. And what you've seen historically happen is essentially Bitcoin moving significantly higher than the actual yellow line on the chart here. You can ignore the colors for a moment. The colors basically just represent how far away we are from the next halving event in terms of days to that event horizon. But basically, the pattern that you see here is that in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 halving, you had Bitcoin price moving all the way up here beyond this yellow line before beginning to taper off again as we move through into the bear market, coming below the yellow line again as we move towards the bottom of the bear. And then we started climbing again with price action. We had the most recent halving event in 2024 in April of last year, and we've had price moving higher as a result of that, but we haven't managed to get above this particular line. And the stock to flow model does have us with Bitcoin getting somewhere to $370,000 by the end of 2025. Again, is that going to happen? That would be extremely bullish. But historically, in the aftermath of these halving events, you have seen Bitcoin move beyond that stock to flow model and get up above it. We barely got above it here. As we approached the halving event, it was interesting to see that with the Bitcoin ETF approval last year, Bitcoin moving higher in anticipation of that halving event immediately after ETFs got approved in January, but we've struggled to get back up towards this yellow line. It may or may not happen as we move into Q4, but if we project this forward, the the Bitcoin stock to flow model actually has us getting to somewhere around $1 million Bitcoin by the year 2028. That would line up with the next halving event occurring here at some point in 2028, probably around April or May of that year. Again, you can see the fair value according to the stock to flow model would be somewhere around $450,000 to $500,000 per Bitcoin by that 2028 halving event. But if we move to the upside here, the projection getting to $1 million by the end of 2028. And then as you move into the year post halving, getting up to $3 million by the end of 2029 or middle to end of 2029. So very interesting numbers here according to the stock to flow model. Again, the model has worked pretty well historically. All models are wrong, but some models are useful. That is what you have to remember here. It's never a guarantee. And the fact that we're quite far away with price action right now in this 2025 timeframe means that maybe this model is not quite as reliable as it has been historically, although we could see a shoot up towards 200 to 300,000 by the end of 2025. That would help to maintain this model's relevance, in my opinion, as we move towards the end of this cycle. Let's see what happens. But again, somewhere in that 2028 to 2029 region is when the stock to flow model has Bitcoin getting to $1 million per token. I wanted to highlight a couple of other quick models and calculations. I was playing around with ChatGPT, looking at the Mayer multiple first and foremost, which essentially works with the 200-day moving average for Bitcoin and projecting out how Bitcoin could reach up to $1 million per token using the Mayer multiple and the 200-day moving average for Bitcoin. And this calculation, as you can see, I was running it. I gave it the current price of Bitcoin today. I gave it and plugged in the 200-day simple moving average and projecting out Bitcoin getting to $1 million with the Mayer multiple. It's telling us maybe with a blow off top, we could see a $400,000 to $500,000 Bitcoin somewhere this cycle potentially, but they're assuming the slope of the 2020-2021 cycle with the 200-day simple moving average rising at 0.25% daily to help project out how Bitcoin could reach $1 million. It is telling us 3.5 to 4 years, meaning sometime in late 2028, early 2029. Interestingly, that does line up very closely with the Bitcoin stock to flow model that we were just looking at for that 2028-2029 time period with a blow off top for Bitcoin to hit $1 million per token. And again, the blow off top is somewhat of a prerequisite here. It's assuming very bullish sentiment, mapping Bitcoin's price action from the 2020-2021 cycle. Again, it asked to run a more precise model with a blow off top scenario. Again, telling us that basically it could happen as quickly as Q1 or Q2 of 2027. I think that is extremely bullish and would be, essentially effectively us getting to a $1 million price target in the next 2 years, which I think would be very, very extreme. But it is using a a more aggressive approach to give us those numbers. And I think that would be very, very bullish. I think 2028 to 2032 is a more realistic time period. But according to Metcalfe's law, that is the other model I wanted to look at. I've spoken about Metcalfe's law multiple times on the channel. You can check out all those videos as well. But if we look at Metcalfe's law and network valuation models, Bitcoin projected towards getting to $1 million using some back of the envelope math projections here based on historical performance. What it's telling us here is the time to reach 3 million active addresses, because Metcalfe's law is all about network adoption, how many users are actually part of the network, and adoption of new addresses and active addresses on chain. It's using a 20% compounded annual growth rate up to a 30% compounded annual growth rate to help project us towards getting to $1 million. And what it says is, if we continue with a 20% compounded annual growth rate for Bitcoin active addresses, that gets us to a $1 million price target for Bitcoin by mid-2031. If we get a little bit more aggressive with that compounded annual growth rate at 25%, it gets us to $1 million per token by late 2030. And a 30% compounded annual growth rate gets us to a $1 million price by early 2030 as well. So interesting numbers here to think about how Bitcoin moves towards that $1 million price target. In my opinion, it's a matter of when Bitcoin gets to $1 million per token, not if. And roughly speaking, it's telling us that if we keep growing at recent rates for Bitcoin adoption and active address adoption, we should hit that 1 million mark between 2030 and 2031. I think that is a nice middle ground between the 3 different models we've looked at here in today's video, the 4 different models actually, because the power law tells us that maybe worst case scenario with the linear regression fit, we get to $1 million per token by 2033. Again, we could have a blow off top before that. The Bitcoin stock to flow has us getting to $1 million by 2028, which is very aggressive in my opinion. The Mayer multiple telling us it could happen as soon as 2028, 2029, and even more aggressively 2027. So I do think that middle ground of somewhere around 2030 to 2031 is very realistic for us to get to that $1 million price per Bitcoin. But let me know in the comments below, guys, where do you think the price of Bitcoin is going, and when do you think we're going to hit that $1 million per token? That is it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments below, did you get any value out of that price projection for Bitcoin reaching a $1 million target? I want to know when you think we're going to hit that target. Drop it in the comments below. Drop the year you think it's going to happen. Let me know if you want a price target for Bitcoin by the peak of the cycle. I will put together a new video for that as well. It's been a couple of months since I looked at that number specifically. If you got any value out of today's deep dive, please just take 3 seconds, drop a thumbs up on the video below, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon, and don't forget to grab your completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin, linked below the video in the description. Grab it now, and we'll catch you in the next one.